Hello, everybody. Welcome along to EFL Debate, and I'm delighted to be joined by defender Adam Thompson. Adam, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. I wanted to get you on the podcast this morning to talk about your mentoring service. I'm just wondering what sort of inspired you to make that offering.
Not having a job, really. Obviously, I'm out of contract, so obviously got released from Orient end of last season, and basically had surgery probably about 4 months ago now, and just been ticking over the rehab of that. But just basically over my whole career, but especially the last few years since since I broke my ankle, probably about 4 years ago now, I've just been through some tough times mentally, and it's just opened my eyes to a lot of things. I've seen a few people. Like therapists and mindset coaches, mentors myself, and it's really helped me massively. So I just thought with sort of my emotional skills, in my opinion, and the experiences I've been through, paired with the psychology degree I'm doing as well for the PFA, I just thought it's something that I could offer, and I feel like it's something I really value as well. I really like helping people. Every changing room I've been in, I've tried to be that guy who's like puts an arm around players, and if I see anyone acting a bit different or a bit down, I make a real effort to sort of take them aside and make sure they're okay, or do what I can to help them, whether that's take them out for a bit of lunch or dinner or whatever. So yeah, really excited. Feel it's something I can offer some players, especially because I've obviously been through a lot of the things and they've probably been through, and there's a lot of people out there that are probably very good at it, but maybe the thing that they don't have is that the experience of going through it themselves as well and being in their shoes as players. So I'd like to think I can empathise with a lot of what they're going through. So yeah.
Do you think that's a quality that you've developed over the course of your career, then, Adam? And it's it's a new thing that you've kind of developed.
I think it's always been me as a person. I think quite caring, quite sensitive to emotions. When I was younger, I was probably a bit more shy in the change rooms. I remember Watford younger, Wickham on loan, Brentford on loan. Probably if you ask the players there what I was like, they'd probably say, oh, he didn't really talk much. I was very shy. But as you grow up, you go through hardships and you gain a bit of resilience, and you learn to get a bit more of a voice. So I think definitely later on in my career, I've definitely been the one to look out for players and give them that advice. So I think I've always had it, is the answer to the question, but I've never really had the confidence to show it until maybe the later stages of my career.
I mean, I suppose we become inspired to mentor other people when we've had great mentors ourselves. Who would you say have been the best managers in terms of motivating and man management, especially that you've had across your career?
Probably Paul Warne is one that sticks out at Rotherham. I think he was just like people first. I remember the first chat he did when I come in was, we just want to make you better people. And if we can get great results and obviously be successful as a football team as well, that is obviously a target. But the main thing is that you'll call me in 6 months, a year's time and be like, I'm a better person because of you. And I can truly say I was. Under him and Richie Barker, they truly made me a better person. And obviously I went through some hard stuff there as well with losing my dad as well, and they was there for me the whole way, sort of thing. So I think that really opened up my eyes to man management, I think. So if I ever went into coaching as well, which I haven't taken off the list, then I would definitely base it off of that sort of mold of sort of like a man manager mold and more psychology driven. But I think he sticks out as one. Paul Warne, definitely.
Yeah, talk to me about Paul Warne, because one of the stories I heard, I don't know if it was you who told me this or somebody else, but apparently he basically got people together in the dressing room and had a whiteboard down and got everyone to write down who they were doing it for, basically, whether it was their pet, whether it was their mum, whether it was their partner, their children, any particular sort of circumstance for them. And then the idea is that everyone in the room sort of fights for that cause, so for everyone's in different causes. So he was able to bring people together, and I've heard stories about people giving each other lifts to other ends of the country when they've got a practical issue and to address. And it's people who kind of go, above and beyond for one another. And I think that's what you've kind of got to aspire to in football. That sort of culture doesn't exist, I wouldn't imagine, very often, that sort of that kind of culture to quite that extent. But clearly that can make a massive difference.
Yeah, 100%. I think most of the times in my career when that's happened and we've had a really good together group, I think it's probably been mainly through luck. So, for example, Southend, it's mainly my my promotion seasons really. Southend, second season at Bury, Rotherham, and Leyton Orient. But I think the difference about the Rotherham one was it wasn't by luck. He openly says that he recruits players off of them as people. So you look at the analysis of them. How can they play? Do they suit our team? Okay, and then they've got to go through one or two interviews of, do you suit this team as a person? Are you a good person? And if you're not, you just won't sign. So I think that culture is almost it's very measured. Like it's there's no luck behind that. It's not like, oh, we've got 20 lads together and it just works so well. It's like, no, this is always going to work well because we do our due diligence. We make sure that it's good people in here. And honestly, that change room was just like full of empathetic, caring lads that would do anything for each other. And obviously we had a few good players in there as well and a good work ethic. And we're a very fit, strong team. But I think that every team in the season hits at least one or two tough times. And I think if you have a team that's together and truly together, then I think that's the bit that gets you through them times. In terms of the thing you said about names up on the wall, yeah. So he actually got us to bring a picture of who we play for.
Wow.
And he basically put it up on the wall, the changing room wall. So as we walked out of our changing room into the tunnel at the New York Stadium, everyone always looked to their right just before we went out, and you saw on that wall would be either your mum, your dad, your brother, your uncle, whatever it'll be, all of you together, and that'll be your thing. You just have a little look at it just as you go out, and just the difference that made is amazing, really. So yeah, I think that was a really good idea as well.
Right. That's incredible, isn't it? I'd be amazed if anyone else in English football was doing that sort of method. Who was Paul Warne's? Did Paul Warne put a picture up on the wall?
I can't remember. I would imagine he did because it was everything. Like we did everything as a team together. It wasn't staff and players. It was the whole team together. Chef, sports science, strength conditioning. So yeah, I'd imagine he did. I think it would have been a picture of his family and his dog. He loved his dog. So yeah.
Right. Where was I? I wanted to. So you kind of came through at Watford at a time when they were recruiting players from. I think it was Granada and Udinese. They had lots of players on loan at that point. And I suppose, did you get an experience of Franco Zola playing under him at Watford?
Yeah, big experience. Yeah, I was there for 2 seasons, I think, under him, or 1.5 maybe. So, no, he's a great man. I think I was having this conversation the other day with a few players about the manager debate of if you've done something in the game as a manager at a certain level, do you instantly gain that respect? And does that help you a lot as a manager? Or is it purely based on, it doesn't matter if you've done anything in the game or if you wasn't even a footballer, is it just purely how good you are as a manager that gains that respect? And I think he had both. So I think obviously as soon as it got announced, we was all like, wow, Zola, what a player. This is going to be great. You got that initial respect for him because you sort of seen all his clips and stuff. But then as a man and as a manager, he was just so humble, just like a normal player. You would never think he was Franco Zola. Like he just acted as if like he was just the same as us, which I guess he was. But he just had that ability to get to your level and empathise with you. Very softly spoken, very rarely lost his anger, and when he did, he cooled down straight again after. But no, the lads had an instant respect for him because of what he did. But then as a manager, he slowly gained our respect over that season. I think the first season was there, we made the playoffs. And then the second season, I think, that's when the lads got promoted. So the pre-seasons were very different. That is what I would say. I remember when they sort of recruiting players from Italy, from Granada and Udinese coming over, and the Italian management staff come in. And I remember there's players like me, Troy Deeney, Jonathan Hogg, sort of like English players, and used to having a very tough pre-season, and the Championship is obviously an arduous season, and our mentality was we need to run to make sure we're fit enough for this season. And long story short, throughout that whole pre-season, they didn't want us to get above 75% running. You know, we was first day was shooting balls into the net, trying to impress. I was like, whoa, what are you doing? Just pass it, very soft in. We was like, what? And they was just like, no, we want no injuries. So that was their mentality. And a week or two before the season, we were sort of saying between ourselves, I don't know about this. I think we're going to be really, really struggling here. We need to be fit. I don't know if they know what the Championship's like, and we ended up making playoffs that season. So it just shows you what different pre-seasons can bring out of players. And no, he had a great effect on us, and it just so happened that the quality of player they brought in just superseded where I was at that time. So then sort of had to go out on loan and eventually go out on permanently to Southend at that point.
Yeah, Southend. I remember the season. Well, I think your first season was the 14-15 campaign when I remember you. I remember watching that 2-1 loss at Burton Albion, where I think they had 10 men and Nasser Al Khayyati scored literally in the last minute. And I thought at that point, you're out of the automatic promotion equation, it's playoffs. And then you went on this crazy run where you didn't concede and went on this mad winning streak, but then lost on the final day at Morecambe. So that must have been quite a topsy-turvy promotion race.
Yeah, it was unbelievable that season. I remember after that game, actually, Burton, we were so in control. They got man sent off. Sometimes that can be the worst thing that can happen, because then you're away from home, but then you're thinking they're up there as well. We want to sort of defend the lead, but then that brings them on. They've got no fear anymore. They've got nothing to lose because they got 10 men. Just the mentality of it all was tough. And anyway, we ended up losing 2-1. I remember we was due to stay in a hotel after that. I think the Champneys in Leicester. And we went there after, and I just remember Phil Brown being the most down I've ever seen him. Like, he just didn't speak to anyone, none of his staff, none of the players. And it was a feeling from the players as well. We were just like, yeah, that was a massive opportunity. That feeling of we've really messed up there. And I thought that was our season done because of the mood. But that can go two ways. That mood can either make you go down and be like, right, that's it. Or it can hurt you so much that you're all so angry and so willing to bounce back from it. And that's what happened. And it was lucky that we had such a together group that season. Obviously, we went up through the playoffs, didn't we?
Yeah.
And the playoff final, Wickham.
Yeah, so it's the Wickham one when Joe Pickett scored in like 121st minute or something.
That's it. Last 2 seconds of the game. So it was it was a great season, great end to the season. But I think the character of the squad we had that year meant that we could have bounced back from that, because we had some real characters in that dressing room. And that was a great season. Actually, I forgot we went up that season.
Yeah. And then because you also put together a bit of a playoff push the following year, didn't you? Where another game I was at, it was the 1-0 defeat at Shrewsbury on the final day, and I think you finished 7th when you could possibly got into the playoffs. I think Millwall might have got in there, did they? Possibly.
That was it. Yeah. So we had Bury on the last day of the season at home.
And no, it was Shrewsbury away. Or is that penultimate? Maybe Shrewsbury was penultimate. Sorry.
Yeah, it was penultimate. Yeah, we lost there because we went on a bad run. I think we were sort of favourites to get in the playoffs. I think we were on a really sticky run. I think we lost to MK Dons. I think we lost to Shrewsbury away. Yeah, and then last game of the season we had Bury, and we had to win to give us any chance. We won 1-0. And I remember Millwall playing Bristol Rovers away. I think it was 3-3. And I think if they drew, we would have gotten the playoffs. And then they scored sort of last minute, and apparently one of their goals was about 5 yards offside. Tony Craig. Not that I'm bitter still, but they obviously went in the playoffs, and they ended up getting promoted. So,
the funny thing is, I think Millwall got promoted the following year. I don't know whether I'm not 100%. I think the Bristol Rovers game might have been the year after, but because I think they might have lost to Barnsley in the playoff final that year.
Oh, right, okay. All right, yeah. This season I'm thinking about was was when we literally was about a point off of the playoffs because of Millwall beat Bristol Rovers that season, and yeah, they ended up getting promoted. So it must have been that following season. Yeah, they got promoted that year, and we honestly believed that season with the team we had a really slow start, and then we went on an unbelievable run. It was Jason Dimitri at right back, me and Anton Ferdinand, Ben Coker left back. We had Ryan Leonard in that team. Anton
That's
Wordsworth. Was that one we had? We had Noel Ranger.
no, yeah. So that's the one. So I'm thinking, yeah. So it was the 15-16 season, and then the 16-17 season was the one where you just missed out. Because yeah, I know Dimitri was playing right back for Walsall in 15-16, and I think he might have went to Southend the following year, maybe. So
right, okay, yeah. So his first season, I think, was when we nearly made the playoffs. Yeah. So yeah, and he's been there ever since, isn't he? So no, that was a tough one to miss out on, because we honestly believed we had the team then to if we went in the playoffs like Millwall, we thought we would have emulated Millwall and gone up as well. So yeah, we had a really good team then, and then that was when everyone sort of then broke off really, and maybe the start of the demise of Southend really.
Sure. How was Phil Brown to play under?
Depends if he was winning or losing, I think. So if he was winning, it was high fives, and it was all a great atmosphere. And if we was losing, it wasn't a great place to be in. But that I think he was lucky at the change room that he had, or maybe not lucky. It was a change room that maybe he built. We had so much character in there that when you could feel that anger and disappointment from him as a manager. We just wanted to do even better, because it brought a bit of an anger in us. And I think you could see in his time there, I don't remember many times where we went on a bad losing streak. It was always very much a quick turnaround. If we lost 1 or 2, we wouldn't go on a 3, 4, 5 streak. So, yeah, as I said, that was his way of doing things, and it worked for us, really. I mean, in his time there, he was very successful. I think the first season I was on loan there, we made playoffs. I think that's when we had John Egan and Sokolik, Jacob Sokolik at centre-back. Made playoffs. Following season, got promoted.
Oh, Gary Deegan was the real hard man in midfield as well, wasn't he?
Deegan, yeah.
You wouldn't want to go into a 50-50 challenge with him, would you?
Even in training, like, he was the same in training as he was in match. He never changed. He was very authentic. It wasn't like he put it on. He was, you wouldn't want to go into attack with him in training, because he would not hold back at all. So, them sort of characters. Tim Lynn, obviously, goes without saying. You know, when you're in
I always think of Tim Lynn with the headband, you know, with the blood coming out of his head, and he's still battling on, you know.
Against Stevenage, that was horrendous. Was it Dembele clashed heads with him? I think if that was these days with the protocols, you'd have to rest for about 6 months. But he literally played, I think, a few days later. And I remember thinking, well, it was Graham Wesley was the manager then, and he was all about mentality and all about, you know, we're already 1-0 up because we've done them mentally this way. And I remember Dembele couldn't play in the second leg of that playoff game, and Tim Lynn did, because of the clash of heads. And I think I remember him saying, or remember someone else saying, that he thought that was a massive, massive hit for them, because mentally it was like we were stronger. Strange how some people think, but as I said, these days you could not play 3 days later with that clash of heads. But he was just a warrior. And when you're in that team like Southend, you don't think anything of it. But then speaking to players since, they're like, wow, that was a team we hated playing against. You were horrible. You pressed, you ran, you was aggressive. But you never think of it like that when you're in it. You just think we're a good group of lads and we work for each other. But it was interesting to hear what other people thought of us as a team.
Ryan Leonard's since gone on to have a brilliant career for himself, hasn't he? With primarily with Millwall. Is that something you kind of expected at the time, given the sort of reviews that he was getting?
You know what? At Southend, I always thought that was my first time playing regularly and playing centre back with him in front of me. I thought it was normal just to have someone there in front of the back four who just basically swept up everything. Went to left back, went to right back, went as a sweeper, went forward, and was just sort of that person just to sweep up everything and make it easy for you. And it was probably the worst thing that could have happened, because after that, I went to loads of different clubs and realised, wow, like, why aren't they doing what Lenny does? Like, just be everywhere and just help me out and make sure I don't have to do anything. I had the easiest job in the world when he was there, and but as I said, it was my first time playing, so I didn't really appreciate how good he was. But obviously, as he's gone on now, I think he got player of the season last year at Millwall, and he's impressed everywhere he's gone. I think Sheffield United and Millwall love him, I think. So I think obviously he's had his injury, same as I have, but the difference with him is his body is such a physical specimen. He is so strong, so quick, so fit. He could be injured as long as he wants, and he'll come back and he'll still be the fittest and quickest in the team. So he's got that genetic physical makeup, also the intelligence as well, buying clever fouls, knowing the game. I honestly think if it wasn't for his injuries, he probably could have played in the Prem by now. But having him back then at Southend was I took it for granted, definitely.
Yeah, you can see that he's probably been schooled by the Tim Lins and the Deegans of this world, because you can still see him. He's one of the few players in the Championship who loves a sliding challenge, and I like that he's got that edge to his game. I guess it also shows, Adam, in football how I think nowadays there's everyone's influenced by Pep Guardiola, if you like, and everyone's sort of trying to kind of copy and paste that. And actually, I wonder, how much do you get success in football by following the trend, and how much do you actually get success by going against the grain and offering something that no one else is?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. It's a really interesting point. I don't think I'm going to give you an answer, but I think it's a tough one because I'm on all these sort of courses, and I'm doing psychology, I'm doing sports directorship, which is like to be a director of football as well. And we have all these conversations between us, players and ex-players, and sort of think, what's the right way, what's the wrong way? I honestly believe there's no right way, there's no wrong way. I think it's you need to do the best with what you've got. So, for example, if you're a manager going in somewhere and you haven't got the players, haven't got the culture, haven't got the makeup of the squad to play like Pep, then you can't. You have to do whatever's needed at that point, and vice versa as well. If you've got very technical players in the team, maybe smaller physically, then maybe your ideas are going a bit more direct. For that initial bit, you can't play how you want to play, and I think that's what makes a good manager, is being able to adapt, be adaptable, be able to adjust. If you've got 4 injuries for that game, you might have to change your style. Instead of saying, well, this is our style, this is what we do. Okay, but your 4 biggest players are out. You've got a smaller team. Are we still going to play that same way against another big team? Okay, so these sorts of questions. But yeah, I think the teams that I've been successful in, I've had both. So the Bury promotion season, the second season,
that was a great footballing side, wasn't it? That 18-19 side.
Yeah, total football. Like, never played any football like that. Really, really good. Brian Lowe got us playing massive. We had good players there because obviously the League One season before we was expected to do well, and we didn't. We come down, so we had good players for the league, but still to play that way. And then obviously on the flip side of it, Rotherham, we went very direct, and we just had pace and power. Everyone apart from me. And we just did really, really well.
You had Richard Wood in that team, Adam.
Yeah, utility player.
You weren't completely alone.
So we was complete opposite, and that worked as well. So yeah, I've been adaptable as a player in my career, and I think the key thing for a manager is to be adaptable to what players they've got and what's going on at the club at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're interested in, was it sports directorship that you're studying then?
Yeah, so that is literally a specific course to be a director of football somewhere. So just something that interests me. I think as a manager these days, from what I've heard, you are limited to how much you can affect a lot of things to do with the culture of the club and the culture of the team. Whereas I think the director of football has a lot to say about definitely the culture of the whole club, the players you bring in, the management staff you bring in. I think you can affect the culture a lot more. And I think as a manager, if I went into coaching or management, I think it'd be quite frustrating if I had an idea and I couldn't implement it. So I think as a director of football, I'd want to be able to have that alignment with the owners, with the manager, bring in the people I think would be good people and would make the club a great club. So I think you have more power and more say in that role. And it's been an unbelievable course. Yeah, some really big names on it. James Tarkowski, Michael Keane, Phil Jones. Players, people in senior positions at clubs. So it's been really eye-opening to lots of different things. Yeah.
Sure. I always think one of my beliefs in football is you've got to have an alignment between whichever style or direction you want to go down. You want to have basically a core identity, because I think the problem lots of clubs have is they invest the money in lots of different ideas, and then they find it harder to build something of substance. So the clubs that are successful, I think, have an alignment right the way through everything they do.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And this is where it's complicated, because going completely against what I said earlier, being adaptable, it's like if you're too adaptable, then you're pretty much, you don't have a way of playing, and you just do whatever you think is right for that game or that period. If you're going through a tough period, all right, we might go long, low risk. If you're going through a good period, all right, let's start playing a bit more. So I do agree with you, and I think you do need to have that. Them core values of what you want to do, the way you want to play, definitely. But you're dealt with a lot of different problems. So I think you need to have that alignment. I think, going through the course, it's taught me a lot about how owners maybe see things, maybe how, especially if they haven't played the game or haven't been involved in the game before, they're very maybe emotional. And then maybe the managers as well can sometimes be emotional about, going through a tough period. Well, we want these players out, or we want these players in. So I think that director of football is a very important role. I think they've got to be very emotionally balanced, understanding. They can't, go off impulse. I think they've got to be very, I think they've got to get that alignment there, that the link between the owners and the manager. So it's, which is something I like the sound of.
Does that appeal to you then? Because I think director of football is slightly different to head of recruitment, because recruitment is basically you're just in charge of the transfers, whereas director of football or sporting director, you're basically in control of bringing all aspects of the club together, whether that's commercial departments, whether that's the academy, whether that's the first team, and sort of bring it together and having that vision of how you want to move forward.
Yeah, I think through this course I've learned there's different models. So you've got the more European model and you've got English models. I think we're trying to go to more towards that way. But you might have like a director of football, but then you might have a CEO above, and then next you might be the chief exec. The CFO, the chief financial officer, to deal with all the financial side. So there's different models, but I think. No, it's something that
you've got to know a bit about the finances as well, isn't it? Because I think for a head coach, you can get away with not having a clue about the finances as long as you're a very good coach of players and you love being on the grass and picking the team and all the rest of it. Whereas I think if you're a sporting director, you don't have to be a financial expert, but you have to know enough about football and you have to know enough about money in order to understand the value of players and which are the ones that and how to. What to sell at, or how much is the right money to invest in the player, either in transfer fee or in wages. You've got to have a foot in both camps, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And that was the first module we learned on the course was club accounts. So they said, look, you don't need to be an accountant to be a director of football, but especially if you're going in for an interview, going in for a job, you probably want to be asking to see the club accounts, and you want to be able to understand it because you need to know, what am I going into here? Also, as it goes along, as the seasons go along, and if you're still that director of football, the owners might not want to tell you everything. So for you to understand the club accounts and that financial side of it can give you a bearing of, how much are your hands tied behind your back, how much are they going to be tied behind your back, and things like that. So you're definitely right. You need that balance. And a manager I spoke to recently actually said he prefers directors of football that have both sides of it. So the football side of it and the finance side, because he said he's worked under both different types of directors of football. The ones that are just maybe haven't played the game, more money based, and it's very tough to get players off them because they're very much in the mindset of, well, hang on, we need to do financially what's best for the club and this and that. And then if you go the other side of it and more the football, they played the game, football, but not the business side of it. They're very much interested in results. Why did you do that? Why did you play that? Why did you play that style today? I didn't think you should have played him. And it's like, if you have that balance of the both, of like, okay, I've got a bit of finance, I've got a bit of football, but I'm not getting too involved in what your decision makings are, and I'm not getting too involved in your decisions, Chairman. I'm just here to sort of make sure that everyone is aligned on the same page. That's what good director of football are. So I think I've had a good role model with Martin Ling at Orient. I think he's definitely got his stick over the years.
Yeah, I feel like Martin Ling doesn't get the credit he deserves in football sometimes.
100%. I mean, just generally in life, what he's sort of been through, but that's nothing at all affecting his work now. I think if you look at Orient over the last 4 or 5 years, they've got 2 promotions in 5 years, was it? And that was their plan. I think that was their 6 or 7 year plan. I think so. He's ahead of schedule. The change room that he's built here is unbelievable. I'm sure you've heard over the last few seasons, everyone's saying how together a change room this is. Not just change room, the whole training ground, really. Like the chefs, the management staff, everyone, they're very, very together. So what he's built here, and being, dare I say, a stable club in League One. Definitely last season they made a little push for the playoffs. I don't know what more he could have done in that time, and he's a good person as well. So I think I've definitely had a good role model there in terms of him to work off, and I always pick his brains about what he's doing and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been good to speak to him as well.
Sounds like a great sounding board for any of your future sort of career ambitions. I guess we know what good football people, runners of a club, look like. I suppose you also know what less good runners of a football club might look like as well. I suppose you were at Southend a little bit before things imploded, perhaps sort of behind the scenes. But was there a feeling that some of the off-field stuff that we're seeing now was affecting things, or were you just kind of so removed from that side of the club as players?
We knew. Yeah, I don't think we ever thought it would get as bad as it did. I think we knew it wasn't run to the level it could be run at. And we knew there was things like it was tough to get. Was we ever paid late when I was there? I'm not sure. I don't think we were. So there was no real alarm bells. It was just sort of like some of the things that were done or not given to us, or given to other people instead of us. It was, you could see that it wasn't being run to its best level. But like I said, you never would have seen it got to the point it did. So and it was different to Bury. I think Bury there you could sort of see, we're in trouble here, and there was things going on where you're like, is that normal? Obviously, it was my first time going through it, so you just had to question everything. You couldn't really understand what was going on. Is he just sort of not paying that, so then he's got enough money next month? And then obviously looking back now, it's obviously ridiculous. It was just like red flags everywhere. So it's definitely different to that. Yeah.
So, because obviously at Bury, you started the season with Stuart Day as owner, and I've got a feeling I think Stephen Dale came into the club around November, December time. I think I'm right in saying. So, were there any warning signs even at the back end of Stuart Day's tenure?
No, we just thought it was we've been saved. We thought, okay, the grass is always green. You cannot get worse than that owner. Things have been so bad. We haven't been paid some months. We haven't got our expenses, our relocation fees, this and that. It was so hard to get hold of. I couldn't get an apartment for months on end. I was living of a hotel, and just everyone was in the same.
That must have been awful, Adam, because you're someone whose family roots are in Southeast or London, so it's not like you could just be looked after by your family while you're playing for Bury. So that would have been quite an isolating experience, I imagine.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was living at hotels for probably 9-10 weeks from first day of pre-season until probably second or third game into the season. I was living out of a hotel because I kept asking, can you sort me out? They was going to pay the rent for a flat and take it out of my relocation expenses. So but they just didn't get back to me and just wasn't sorting it. And I was just asking and asking and asking, and just wasn't happening. So I just was staying in the cheapest hotel I could at any point. Sometimes I'd book the Ibis budget for a week, and then I'd go to maybe a hostel if that was taken up, if there was like a Manchester United game on, just because obviously looking back now I could have maybe stayed in nicer places to make it a little bit better, but I was just trying to save as much money of that relocation fee as possible, so then I can get through the whole year in my apartment, thinking it's only going to be a week or 2 weeks away, because that's what they kept saying. So yeah, I was living out of a suitcase for that long, and that definitely didn't help. It added to all the things that were going wrong at that point with me and with the club, and it just basically made me go into a really, really dark place at that point. And but as I said, we thought obviously Steve Dale coming in was it all over. Like, thank God, like we're saved finally. Obviously, none of us done any due diligence or looked into his sort of background as a businessman, can you call it? And obviously for the first month he paid us, or first 2 months, and then like from January onwards, just didn't get paid.
Where was I? That must have been such a difficult experience. I'm wondering, do you think that there should be some sort of rule in English football where if there's a really bad owner, you should be allowed to cancel your contract if you're not getting paid? Because for me, that seems like a real injustice. You're not getting paid. You're still doing work for that football club, and you might be able to, if you'd been able to cancel your contract, you might have been able to go and find something at a non-league club, or at an EFL club, actually in the free agent market, because that would I don't understand. It just seems very unfair that players will be the ones to suffer in that, as well as the fans, of course, everything. That players will be the ones to suffer in that situation where they're just not getting paid at all for 4 or 5 months. That just seems like how can you justify that?
I agree with you. Yeah, it should be, if you signed a contract and the club cannot adhere to that contract, you should be free to go wherever you please, really. So like sort of like the window should be given you should be given a grace period, I think, to sign for whoever you want after that. Otherwise, you're in a lose-lose. You either stay and don't get paid, or you leave and you can't get clubs, you don't get paid anyway. So you might as well stay. But then you're at the risk then of getting injured and not having a club. So that was the position a lot of our players, well, all of our players were in from January. We had a real team meeting and sort of said, what we're going to do here. We've got a real shot at getting promoted, but basically how it works is you give your 2 weeks notice. So you give notice, and if you don't, that you want to leave the club, or that you want to rip up your contract because you're not getting paid, and they have 14 days to make the payment to you. Now, what a lot of clubs do, and what Bury, I think, did with a few players, was they'd wait 13 days and then pay you either the full wage or a bit of that wage, which means you can't legally leave then. So you just keep doing that and if they don't pay in them 14 days, then you are free to leave. But the lads were saying at that point, we could get promoted here. This looks great for us. If we get promoted and then we're all on a free, it's brilliant. And then a lot of lads were saying, hang on, I could get injured in the next 6 months, have a bad injury, then I'm out then I'm not getting a club. For what? Why should I be playing for this club when they're not paying me, and we've got no insurance and stuff? If I get injured out on the training pitch, I can't get any scans or can't get any treatment. So yeah, there was real serious conversations to be had. People had some big mortgages. Certain players had big mortgages, I remember, and they was really struggling. They just said, I can't pay my mortgage. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I mean, you're trying to play football matches in League Two through that, and you just sort of think it's more important things like their family. They couldn't pay their mortgage, so yeah, it was a tough time. But Nicky Adams was the voice in the end, and he just said, look, lads, I'm doing it. The only reason I'm doing this is I want my family on the pitch at the end of the season, and I just want to have them all there, and I just want it to be the happiest moment ever. I'm not doing it for the money. I get it's hard for us all, but that's my motivation. Do you want to do that with me? And we all just said, yeah. And how it worked out was actually a bit emotional, because that was actually the last time that pretty much anyone was on that pitch. And just like the pictures I've still got now, obviously the last sort of pictures really of my dad. So I'm
Ah,
so grateful to Nicky that he sort of got us all into that mindset, really, because we could have easily said, if that was a different voice leading the change room, we could have easily said, yeah, no, that's done. And no one really would have questioned it. No one would have said that's disgraceful. Everyone would have understood. But we went through it, not paid for however many months, 4 or 5 months, and we got promoted. So yeah, it was an amazing story, really.
yeah, bittersweet, really. Um, I hope there can be. It's good to see Bury back on the up in non-league football, and hopefully we can see them back in the football league in the next 10 years or so.
Yeah, I think they're doing quite well. I spoke to my friend the other day, and I think they're doing quite well again. And obviously, I see some of the attendances they get in the stadium, and I think it's a great place to go for. It's a great place to go to for players at that level. So I'm just buzzing to see them playing back in that stadium again. I know they was away from it for a little bit, but yeah, Bury is back, and I'm sure they will with the local fan base around there, and how good the people were at the club when I was there. If they're near the same, then I think they're definitely destined to come back soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to Bury. Um, so you went through. Would it be fair to say, from what you said there, you went through a difficult period after around that time?
Yeah, definitely. So in that first pre-season at Bury, yeah, it was just so tough. Like, so I signed on a 3-year deal there under Lee Clark, and
Mhm.
basically after 2 games, they said we want you to go, loan or permanent. But I'd had conversations with Southend at that point because I just thought, well, it's probably easier just for me to go back to Southend. So I spoke to them at that point, and they said actually, like, they've been trying to get rid of you since a few weeks ago. So this was even before pre-season had ended. So it just sort of highlights the lack of sort of emotional skills maybe that
Mhm.
the management staff had at that point, because this is a 23-year-old lad who I'm not really young at that point, but it's my first move away from home. I'm living out of a hotel. Um, yeah, I'm sort of being. I can tell I'm not wanted there, and there was no effort to sort of arm around me or see how I'm doing or be like, look, maybe. To be fair, Chris Brass was the only one that did that, but he was more of a
Mhm.
senior level. But from the actual management staff, there was none of that, and they just sort of said, well, that's it, done then. Like, we'll get rid of him. So that was a tough time, and yeah, definitely. After that, went out to Bradford, so I was travelling sort of hour and a half every day there and back, and wasn't playing there. So that season, I definitely uh, went through depression. I was just going back to my room in Manchester when I did actually eventually get my flat, and the curtains were just drawn, and I just at that point I thought I was just recovering well and just sitting in a dark room and just chilling. But obviously looking back now, yeah, it was, I just was in a room in the darkness every day, and obviously now I've looked up the symptoms and people talk to me about it, and I thought I was growing my beard because I just thought I wanted to grow my beard. I thought I was growing my hair because I thought I was growing my hair, but it was just me just not taking care of myself. I thought I was putting on weight just because I wanted to get bigger centre back, and all these things. So looking back now, it was obviously clear depression, and but at the point I just thought, you know, this is a hard time. You've got to get through it. That's what you're told in football.
Yeah, it's. I think loneliness is such a problem. I guess we don't always talk about it. I mean, if there was a murderer that had killed the amount of people that loneliness has killed, it would be like a national crisis that we'd all come together to deal with. But because it's a topic that there can be a lot of shame around, we don't talk about it as much. I think that's a really important thing that we've got to change.
100%, yeah, and everyone will go through it at some point, and yeah, that's why I'm more sort of going down the psychology route. I think because um, I think the coaching, everyone says that they see me as a coach and they think I'd be a good coach, but in my opinion, this is no disrespect to coaching at all, but I feel like for what I want to give people, coaching them at football is a bit more shallow than what I want to give them. I want to coach them in life if they're struggling with depression, loneliness, gambling, drink, drugs, losing a family member, relationship struggles, identity issues, whatever it is. That's what I want to help them with. Not playing as well as they can every game, because that's only going to last you so long, and there's
Mhm.
more to life than football. And I've been there where you don't think there is. You think that is your identity. I'm Adam Thompson, the footballer. But you get to a point, and everyone will get to a point where they realise either they're not a footballer anymore, so then what am I anymore? If I'm not Adam Thompson, the footballer, or if I'm not Gabe Sutton, the podcast host, then what am I? I'm nobody
Yeah.
then. If I don't have that
Yeah.
podcast anymore, if I'm not a footballer anymore. Whereas
Yeah.
if you just live by your values, if you have someone there who can help you through all this stuff and talk to you, and like you said, make sure you're not lonely and just someone to open up to and help you through things, then that's something that's going to affect the rest of your life in a positive way. So that's my mindset on it. And like I said, basically what I'm saying is because I've been through it, and I know that you've struggled with things as well. I think
Sure.
we're in a position where we can empathize. Really, I think you
Mm.
can only give so much advice if you haven't been through things. But when you have been through certain things, I think I think they're the people that you want to speak to. So yeah.
Yeah. I think um, the that's I think loneliness is a really big thing, and also what you talked about there in terms of identity. That's a really big thing in order to help people, encourage people to associate themselves as more than just what they do. It's how do you inspire people to think of themselves as more than a job title, if you like?
It's more, I can't tell them what they're feeling, or I can't tell them to feel a certain way. So it's more just questions that provokes things. So um, yeah, if they're feeling a certain way, I might ask a question that I clearly will give them the answer that they're probably missing, but I won't
Mhm.
tell them, well, why aren't you feeling like this? Or what you, I'll be like, okay, what if you was this and that then, and then would that make you feel different? Well, no. Okay. So you're searching for that, but you know that that's not going to make a difference. And then it's just sort of things like that. So you've got to be very. I try not to give advice. I try to lead people to what they're truly feeling. And I get it. I've been there as well. And sometimes it can lead to them being angry and be like, well, obviously, why are you asking me stupid questions? I get it because
Mm.
I've been there as well. And I want them to feel that anger, because if they can't feel what they're feeling with me, then there's no point of doing it. And sometimes it brings out a few emotions. But yeah, it's more posing a question and making them feel it and think it for themselves. Because if you don't work it out for yourself, then it's probably not a life learning. It's probably just someone telling you something. So that's my technique.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I think whenever if I talk to somebody about something I'm struggling with, and they try and fix it straight away, it's it's counterintuitive, isn't it? Because you would think that you're coming to someone, for advice, and you sort of are, but you kind of a lot of the time it's actually you need someone to give you the space to actually work it out for yourself, but you need someone else to kind of bounce the ideas off, don't you?
100%. I think two things. I think the problem is rarely the problem. So whatever you think you're struggling with, it's probably not that actual issue. It's something else affecting it. Um, and yeah, and secondly, I just think, yeah, it's just you need to work it out yourself. So you're going to someone for advice when actually you know the answers already. You're just going them to really like speak your feelings, and come to a place where you can work it out yourself. So that's my advice. That's the way I do things. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, how do you work it out yourself? That's it, because you're right. A lot of the time, what you think you're struggling with isn't the thing itself, and yet, I think it's difficult for people to really understand um, what's right at the bottom of it. And I think it can take a lot of therapy or a lot of talking or a lot of before you actually really get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, I think it's just it's from me, from the mentor, the mindset coach to judge where that person is. So if they need the first session, the first two sessions, the first 10 sessions, just talking, then great. You can talk all you want, but there's obviously going to be a point where, and that might make them feel better, but you still need a plan to take action to improve what's going on. So it's just my judgment then to tell, okay, what is this person going through here? So for example, if it's if they're very overwhelmed, it's like I'm just really overwhelmed. I just can't. There's different techniques we can use, but basically overwhelm is basically you've lost sense of your priorities. So you might have 10, 11, 12 things going on. You're just like, there's just too many things going on, and I just don't know how to. Okay, so then my technique with that in that situation would be, okay, what's your top 3 priorities? List them out now. List everything you've got going on at the moment. I've got to do this podcast, but I've got to go and see my mum there, but then my brother's down there, and my uncle's at hospital. Then I've got to go and walk the dog, and what's your top 3 priorities? Well, it's that, and that. Okay, everything else for a minute, for a week, you have to cut it off. You've got to set your boundaries, and you have to do that until you get into a place where maybe you can slowly bring one thing at a time. This is simple stuff, but this is stuff that I will go through, that you'll go through every day. And we don't realize we're doing 11, 12 things. We just think that's our life, and we're just getting older, and we're just getting busier. And for me, it's worse because I'm a people pleaser. So I'll do, yeah, of course you want that doing. Okay, I'll come and see you. Okay, let me do that for you. I'll type that out for you. But I need to go and see my kids first. But okay, I can't see my kids because I've got to do that. And suddenly you're just in this thing. You're just like, oh, it's too much. So that's just an example.
Actually, Adam, do you mind if I touch on that, because that's a really important thing? Like, because I'm not a parent, but I imagine it's a difficult thing navigating family dynamics with work, because work is always the thing where not taking action on something is likely to have immediate short-term consequences. Because if you don't do that thing, you might get spoken to about it by your boss. You might not get that promotion. You might not get whatever it is. It's like this thing in the moment, you don't get that thing, but then the build up of for instance, not seeing your kids or not spending quality time with your partner, that's the sort of thing that can build up and build up and build up over a long period of time. And actually and that's actually the most important thing over, in the bigger picture. But I think because of the short-termism of work and how important it is to kind of hold down a job, I think people kind of, the family gets the residue and the work gets like most of the effort, when sometimes it should be the other way around.
100%. It's just so many paradoxes in life and in football. It's like you need to give your all to football to be the best player you can, to then get more contracts, to get financially the best life for you and your family. So you need to do that in some people's opinions. But then do kids really care about finances, or could they live in a smaller house and just be happier? And do you need to be doing everything you can and spending all this time away from them to be getting them a bigger house, or to be keeping that same mortgage? There's no answer to this. This is just questions that I'd pose. For me, I like the house and the area we live in, so I would like to pay the mortgage off. So it's important for me to perform at a certain level, so then I get the contracts that I get. But I'm also aware my kids couldn't care less if they lived in a shed with me or not. As long as I'm there as much as possible, as long as I'm present, as long as they get to have fun with me, they do not care. And I used to think that wasn't the case. I used to think I have to do this and I have to perform and I have to. But what that just builds up is so much resentment for you, for your life, of what you're sacrificing, resentment from your partner, whether that's a man or a woman, of how much time you've missed out with them through the career. The resentment from the kids eventually, when they're like, well, hang on, he's putting all that into his work, but he doesn't spend that time with me. What's more important? And this is why the divorce rate, I think, after retiring from football is something ridiculous, like 70 or 75% within the first 3 years. Because that's a number of reasons there, but a lot of it will probably be the resentment from the three sides there. It'll also be the identity. Your partner thinks that there's this lifestyle that you got used to, and this is how it is. It's not like that anymore. Now I've got to take this wage, and we don't have that. You're not coming to watch me on Saturdays. I'm working there now, and I'm there from 8 till 7. I'm not at training ground from 9 till 1, and I'm back, and it's all happy. And by the way, I'm struggling because I'm not Adam Thompson the footballer anymore. I'm Adam Thompson whatever I'm doing. Oh, okay then. And now I'm a different person. I'm going to struggle through this, and I need you there to support me. So there's so many things that go into the identity, the resentment of everything.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is. I'm just a bit sort of stunned by that statistic.
Yeah, it's definitely
I,
above 70%, 70, and it's within the
yeah,
first three. I'm sure it's 3 years, or it might be 5 years of football after retiring. Yeah, that's the divorce rate. But you can see why, because you get used to it. Like I said, you get used to the lifestyle. You are a different person in around football, and also, even if you're not a different person, it's just the build up of coming home after losing or playing rubbish, and you're down, and you've got 2 days, 3 days, 4 days of just, right, I just need my own space. I'd like to your partner and to your kids, and you're not present. You're thinking, right, I need to play well next week now because I haven't played well that week, and it just consumes your life.
yeah,
And it's just the resentment, that build up of resentment from your family, really, that you're not there. Luckily for me, I've noticed it in the last year since I've been seeing a mentor, and I've stopped it. But lots of people go through till 36, 37, 38, and they'll be doing that for 20 years through football. What chance have you got, really, with your family when you're treating them just sort of like they're there just to deal with your mood swings, and they'll just cater to you?
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's tough.
Yeah, definitely. What was I going to say? I think there's a big problem for men, whereby I think we give ourselves the pressure of being the provider, because I think society's dictated that we've got to be the front runners, the breadwinners, we've got to, and I think that is changing. I think sort of gender assumptions are changing a little bit, and I think that's broadly healthy. But yeah, I think that's a big problem that men have got to do. It's like sometimes it's like men aren't allowed to have feelings, that because they've got to be the providers, if you like. But then actually not expressing your feelings means that it kind of comes out in different ways later down the line, because it always does one way or another.
No, 100% agree, and I think there's pressure in life, for men, for women, for kids, all the time. But like you said, I think there is this stigma that the men should usually be the breadwinners, and it brings that pressure, especially in football, and that's your job, and everything is based on, if you're not playing, then you might not get another contract. You're not going to get the team. You might not get another contract, which means you don't know where your next paycheck's going to come from. And you just sort of, it just goes and goes and goes, and you just think, well, hang on, how am I going to afford this house? How am I going to go on holiday this year with the kids? And you can just see why footballers, they say football's the easiest job in the world, or the best job in the world. It's not at all. I strongly disagree with that. In terms of hours working, I get it. Like a lot of the clubs I've been at, you're probably in at 9 and you're away by, if you really don't want to do any extras at all, you could be away by 1, which is great, but you don't, from before 9 a.m. you're not thinking about football. After 1 p.m. you're not just like, right, that's it, it's wiped, I'm just going to the beach and we're going to have fun. You are not present. You might as well be working from 6 till 8 p.m. at night, because you're thinking about football. You're doing stuff to do with football to make you better, or to get you in the team, or you're just stressing. Even if you're not doing anything, you're just feeling guilty, or you're feeling not good enough, or you're panicking about the future, and am I going to get a club? Am I going to get in the team? They've just signed him. He's better than me, but now I've got an injury, and so I think all these things make it tough for men and players playing football.
So the solution then? Because it's great that we've sort of identified the challenge. Is the solution giving men a bit more of a space to open up, especially footballers, and actually encourage them to share a more vulnerable side?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's tough because there's been lots of different things trying to get started, of like, right, we need to open up and we need to talk more. In my opinion, that's not going to happen unless you have someone there. You're not just going to go on social media and do a video and just talk openly to people, in my opinion, unless you're very, very, very confident, or you need somebody.
It needs to be a safe space, of course.
Yeah, and I think that doesn't come from the people speaking out. That comes from the people be in someone's safe space. So I think instead of putting the emphasis on we should speak out, I think we should put the emphasis on be there for someone. So allow someone to speak out, ask them questions. If you
Yeah.
see a bit of a difference in them, or if they've said made a few comments recently, just take them away. All right, should we go to the gym for a little bit? Or should we go to, anyway, how have you been? It can be casual as anything. Don't have to be like, right, I think you're struggling. Just be like, how's the partner? How's the kids? What's going on? Yeah, do you know what? I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling. Are you struggling with anything? Or, say it how you want to say it.
Yeah.
Just be there for someone. That's the only way people are going to speak out. People aren't going to openly, from my experience, be like, that's it, I'm struggling. I haven't said it yet, but now everyone said I can speak out and open up. I'm going to speak out. So I think it's more the emphasis on the support network and the leaders around football and around, just general life and jobs. It's their job, I think, their responsibility to try and help other people.
I think helping other people is a great way of giving yourself a sense of purpose, for sure. I agree. I think you don't tend to have those kind of conversations where you make a difference to people literally by uh, forcing other people to share their wounds, because that's not how it works. But I think when you settle into a dynamic with someone where you speak once a week, sort of over time, they might share something about their personal life, and then you might ask a question about that, and then gradually you might sort of be able to understand and empathize, and then I think sometimes it's about actions as well, where if you can do something, that's the thing for me. It's the most important thing in relationships with other people. I think transactional relationships, they're great and they serve a purpose, but I think the most rewarding ones are when you go and do something for other people, because for somebody else, because you care about them, because that's the thing that gives you a sense of fulfillment. That's the thing that kind of gets you up in the morning. That's the thing that gives you a sense of purpose.
No, 100%. And I think it's tough. There's so much to go into in terms of this, but I think me and you have got that mindset, I think, of, just giving with no expectation of receiving.
Yeah.
Great. I think we probably seek connection. We have been through certain things, so we know that that's important for other people. But like I sort of shared on my Instagram last night, I think if you've come from secure attachments, if you come from a close family, should we say, and a family where you've been brought up with good values and just a strong family bond, then your belief is that life is about connection. And if you don't have that, then your belief is that life is about survival. So I think if you're of the belief, if you've got that secure attachment from your family upbringing and you think that life is about connection, then you're going to have that mindset of like, right, let's connect with people. Let's see how they're feeling. Let's try and help them. Whereas if you haven't had that family upbringing, through no fault of your own, just through you being brought into this world, into some circumstances, maybe not even through fault of your parents or your family, just through their circumstances, things have happened, or you now have this outlook on life that the life's about survival. So I know he's struggling, but I don't care, because I need to get into the team this week. If I don't get into the team, I don't pay for my family's holiday or mortgage this month. So I couldn't give a monkeys if he's down in the dumps. I don't care. That doesn't affect me. I'm surviving. My family's surviving. And we probably both know people that have that mindset and have that. And in the past, I couldn't understand that. I was like, how can you be that selfish? But now that I think that
it's the conditioning, isn't it? It's like the values that you've grown up with. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's in you because of that, and through no fault of your own. I'm very, very lucky. I'm being able to speak like this now because I've got a secure attachment, and I believe that life is about connection. But I'm also, through my learnings, understanding of those people that also believe that life is about survival, because it is. A lot of it is. So I think that's the problem. When you have too many people in an environment, whether that's work environment or whether that's a football environment, that have an insecure attachment from growing up, I think you're not going to have that empathy, and you're not going to have a space there for people to speak out. Whereas if you have a lot of people, and if you want to call it a culture, so if you somehow conjure together people that have mainly, in the main, over 50% got a secure attachment, you're going to have people looking out for people and trying to connect with people and trying to talk to people. So my answer to you is, I don't know how we change that unless 90% of families in the world have secure attachment, which is it's just not going to happen, because there's so many circumstances that people can't control.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so you're hoping to get a contract then, as well alongside the mentoring. Yeah, what sort of club and what sort of culture do you want to be part of?
Yeah, to be fair, as of a few weeks ago, I wasn't too bothered. To be fair, I always keep myself fit, so I'm in at Leighton Orient literally now. They've
Right,
looked after me. To be fair, the physio still. I'm coming in after they finish their training, so I'm not in the way of the lads and getting treatment and getting rehab, and I'm back running now. But
nice.
still, maybe this week or so, I wasn't too bothered about getting a club. I was happy starting my business, and I've got a property business as well. So I was sort of the opinion that the injuries over the last few years have just taken a toll mentally, and I like being present with my family. I like not every day waking up being like, oh my word, my Achilles hurts again, or this hurts again, and that's just now ruined my day and affects my time with my family and my children. But now I've started running again, and I feel pain free, and I feel like I can offer something to a club. So I'm very relaxed about it. If a full time offer comes in, I'll think about it. I'm not sure if I want full time, but I can also see that maybe I could help a full time club. And if a part time club comes in, I think that might suit me as well.
Right.
With the not as much commitment to time commitments, more time with the family. So I'm open to anything, basically, Gabe.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure anyone who brings you in would get somebody not just a top defender, but also somebody who looks out for other people and can set a great culture in that dressing room. So, listen, best of luck, Adam, with whichever steps you move forward with, and yeah, good luck for the future.
Thanks so much, Gabe. Thank you.
Top man. Cheers.